Two major issues that plague many amphibians and reptiles in captivity are obesity and starvation. As we discuss the captive care for the Gray Army, and you can meet Dexter, Esperanza, and Melania, we're going to talk about ways to avoid both. Let's get into it. The Gray Army, my eastern gray tree frog trio, has gone through so much adversity over the last few years. I wanted to tackle one of the main subjects that I and many other keepers have faced, and that's the battle between starvation and obesity. It seems like an odd teeter-totter, but it's truly one of the things that plagues many frog and toad keepers the most. How much should I feed my animal? Or am I feeding my animal enough? As you can see, Dexter, the newest eastern gray tree frog, who was rescued this year, is one of the main animals that I've been starting a new program with. And in that program, every month, I weigh my animals. So tip 1, in my opinion, should be keeping a gram scale handy to weigh your animals, to understand what their typical weight is month from month. If it fluctuates too much, then you know there's a problem with the way you're feeding your animals. Basically, as soon as you can, weighing your animals is the best case scenario because you could get a baseline number for what you think the average weight should be. And if you're feeding your animals too much, too many times a week, then you're going to know that they're gaining weight rapidly and you need to back off. But if you go too long and wait to feed your animals and they begin to starve and drop weight rapidly, you know that you need to pick the pace up and offer them a little bit more to eat. This is one of the best ways to balance that teeter-totter that I have found over the last few years. And as you can see, these beautiful frogs deserve everything that we can to help them to have the best possible life in captivity. And as I put on the screen here, you'll also understand how much to be feeding your animals in captivity, which is going to save you money, but also make your frogs very happy because they're in the middle between starvation and obesity, and that's where we want them. I'll coin the phrase the Goldilocks approach, where she didn't want the porridge to be too hot or too cold, she wanted it to be just right. And for all of my animals, whether it's Dexter or Esperanza here, I want their feeding schedule and their lifestyle to be just right. You're looking at a frog that needs no introduction on this YouTube channel. He's carried the baton from the gray tree frogs who came before him and taken the Gray Army to new heights, appearing on regional television and also appearing on the cover of newspapers around Pennsylvania. In the 2 years of having Esperanza, he's truly taken the Woods and Forests media brand to new heights, and he's one of the most accomplished frogs already in the Woods and Forests media community. He's one of the most personable frogs. He's amazing to take on talk shows and presentations because of his laid-back nature, but he's truly one of my favorite frogs that I've ever had the chance to keep. I love Esperanza, and that's why getting his diet and getting everything about his habitat correct is one of my top priorities. I mean, look at how happy he is. Look at that beautiful frog smile. It's incredible to see the love that Esperanza has for the flowers of peace lilies. Out of the handful of eastern gray tree frogs that I've rescued and kept over the years, I've never had one of them show the most interest in the peace lily flowers quite like Esperanza. He sleeps on them, he'll hang out on them during the day and at night, and he'll also actually use them as a high point to project himself and catch crickets leaping down from the flower, kind of like Batman off of a gargoyle in the Batman Arkham games. It's incredible to see how he's been able to utilize those peace lily flowers. So, if your frog has the personality like Esperanza, then I recommend everybody getting a peace lily and allowing it to flower, just to see. The most common question that I get posting gray tree frog episodes on this channel, and also reading the comments and questions on the Frog and Toad Facebook group, is how much should my tree frog weigh? That question has a lot of variability, and I was trying to answer it a little bit earlier in this episode, but let me coin the phrase the Goldilocks range. For this channel, in my interpretation, the answer isn't an exact amount of grams, like Esperanza weighs 15 grams right now. However, the range that he is the healthiest, or let's say his Goldilocks range, would be between 12 and 15 grams. That's where he's the most active and the healthiest. He's never gone below it and never gone above it. I do have some frogs and toads that are above and below their Goldilocks range that I'm working with currently to get them back to that sweet spot where they're going to be the healthiest and most active. The Goldilocks range is very different depending on individuals. Dexter is 9 to 10 grams on average, and Melania is somewhere between 18 to 25 grams. But she's a female, and she's also much older and much bigger than what Dexter is. That's why we need to take into account size, sex, and all kinds of other variables when thinking about our pets. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer for every species of frog and every individual frog. One common standard, one universal theme on this YouTube channel that I continue to preach video to video is the idea of fewer frogs in the largest space that you can possibly afford. This is the Exoterra 36 by 18 by 36. It's over 101 gallons and it offers them a lot of space. This tank is valued at over $500 right now to ship it to your house. But these animals, these gray tree frogs, are from woods and forests where the trees get over 70 feet tall. I know that these guys are yearning to climb more vertical than I can offer them in this enclosure. So even with as large of an enclosure as I can afford, I can tell it's still not quite up to their liking. But this is what we're going to have to deal with for the time being. If we apply the steps that have already been talked about, a larger enclosure and a gram scale are going to set you back a little bit. But in the long run, you're going to know what your frogs and toads have to eat to maintain their weight. And as you're weighing them, it's going to save you money because you won't have to spend as much on feeders every month or every so many weeks depending on your feeding scale. And it's also going to give you an idea of how your frogs and toads maintain their Goldilocks range. And just a small tidbit, for this enclosure size, I do think 1 to 2 frogs is perfect for a 36 by 18 by 36. Again, male and female is probably the best. 2 males or 2 females sometimes comes into conflict, but you could probably get away with it. As we continue with the theme of this episode, maintaining a healthy weight for our animals, getting a large enclosure, getting a gram scale to weigh them, only keeping a couple of them in a large enclosure together. We also need a security camera that's going to be able to pick up their activity overnight. As frogs and toads are nocturnal, you might not get the chance to see how active they truly are. But using these security cameras, I've been able to capture the majority of their behavior, all of their scurrying about the enclosure, hopping around, catching prey items, calling, and everything in between. And this helps me confirm that this Goldilocks range for these animals is working. The winter time is common for gray tree frogs to slow down. They won't eat as much, they won't be as active, and that's because in the wild, they're not supposed to be awake from November to February. However, if they would continue to slow down throughout the rest of the year, I would know something's wrong and I need to make changes, whether it be in their husbandry, their weight, their diet, or just overall taking them to the vet to get sorted out what the problem is. But this is clearly one of the ways I can see that they're healthy. I could catch them regardless of what they're doing with the security camera, whether they're calling, hunting for prey items, or just hanging out. And you can see, tree frogs use the vertical and the horizontal. That's why I promote the largest overall enclosure possible. This is one of the ways I can see that the Goldilocks range for all 3 of these animals is working. I can catch all 3 of them on a nightly basis, moving throughout the enclosure and exploring, hunting, and whatever. Do you guys enjoy these scenes of night vision from the security camera, watching the tree frogs moving about through the enclosure? Do you guys want to see long-form content specifically from the security camera, showcasing whether it's night vision or the artificial weather that the tree frogs enjoy on a daily basis? Let me know in the comments section and I'll see if we can make that happen. To close out this video, I wanted to showcase the security camera footage capturing the infrared night vision that these animals are moving about through the enclosure, and also the artificial weather that these frogs enjoy on a nightly basis. Maybe this will help you make up your mind if you want to see more long-form content just about the lives of these frogs from the eye of the security camera. So in short, this episode is about the Goldilocks Range, monitoring the weight of your tree frogs with a gram scale, keeping larger enclosures with fewer frogs, and using security cameras to monitor activity. Let me know if you want to see more content and what we should talk about in caring for great tree frogs moving forward in the comments section below. But that's going to do it for this one. I can't wait for the next episode of Wild Vivariums. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share for more content. Thanks.